Good morning. I wrote an article a few days ago around the source of pressure and stress, and I got a lot of great feedback, and a lot of people found it very helpful. So I wanted to create this video and just to go deeper into this subject. And the title of the article was "The Real Source Behind Pressure and Stress." And in fact, I want to speak in this video about the real source behind any feeling state that we experience on the inside. So there's a misunderstanding today in the world uh, that my circumstances, my life on the outside is the cause of how I feel on the inside. That's actually how I used to see it my whole life. So the example I used in the article was from my days in sports when I used to be a professional athlete. We would talk, my teammates and I, around how to improve or how to get rid of some of the feelings we feel before a race, just because it affects our performance. So the feeling of pressure, fear, lack of confidence. And so we would sit, and what we would notice is that we don't all have the same feeling experience before the race. So my teammate would feel really excited and just ready to race. Uh, I would feel pressure and maybe some fear. Another teammate would feel um, a little bit down or just sad or lack of energy. So our experience is totally different from one person to another. And right there is kind of the clue about where our experience is created, but we would totally miss it and not see it whatsoever. Um, and so as we talk, as we share with each other, we would end up by explaining it or blaming it on our personality differences. So I would say something like, "Oh, forget about it. You're just you just have a different personality than I am. You don't get it. That's why, the way my personality is, the way where I grew up in my family, how I grew up in my family is why um I'm feeling this fear or pressure." Another way I would explain it is to say, well, the type of races that I race are different from yours, yours are just they sound a lot more fun, but you don't get it. When you race my type of races, the competition is just higher and the margin for error is big. You could make mistakes so easily. And this tends to happen when my teammate, for example, just doesn't see it. For some reason, he doesn't see why you would experience pressure or experience fear before a race. And the actual the actual the reality of how our experience is created. So one way we could call this misunderstanding is the outside in misunderstanding. What's happening on the outside is causing how I feel on the inside. But as I mentioned in the article, the mind only works one way. So I'm just going to talk about the human mind for now. The human mind only works one way, and that's from the inside out. And what that simply means is that we all have a personal reality inside of us, right? We could easily witness that. We have different beliefs, we have different taste, we don't like the same things, we don't dislike the same things. And so we all have a personal reality. And that does not say there isn't a reality out there. There is a reality out there, but what we experience is our own personal reality about the reality out there. So, in other words, What I would experience before a race is my thinking about the race. And what my teammate would experience about the race is his thinking about the race. So we don't fear or feel pressure because of the race. We fear and feel pressure because of our thinking about the race. So our thinking is the middle person, basically. And so not only that, if we really take a very close look, we could see that I could see that my experience changes from one race to another. So even my experience is not fixed. So sometimes I would feel pressure, right? And fear. But other times, if the race isn't a very important race to me, or if I thought I didn't prepare well enough for this race, I would not occupy by my mind about it, and I would have a free mind. And guess what? I would not feel pressure, and I would not feel stress. I would feel excited. I would feel like it's an experiment. I would feel like it's a trial and error, and let me just try a few things and see how it goes. So a totally different experience, yet it's still a race, right? And I work with my clients, and one of the first things I would care to achieve with my client is to recognize that. Now, here's why. To recognize that my feeling experience is created on the inside. And that's not to say, some people might understand this as, oh, so you're to be blamed. It's your fault. It's your mistake. I'm not saying this. I'm strictly talking about how the human mind works. No blaming whatsoever. And the human mind creates an image about what's happening outside and then creates a feeling that reflects this image. So the whole thing is happening inside of you. It's not happening on the outside. But if we have the misunderstanding that it's happening on the outside, then we really care to change our circumstances. And we might think that I will only feel happy and I will only feel great if my circumstances, if my life is in a very specific way, if it happens in a very specific way. But when I realized that, and so again, if you have this misunderstanding, not only will you spend a lot of effort to change your circumstance, you would avoid a lot of things because you think they make you feel a certain way. You would avoid maybe talking to people in public, maybe you avoid making friends, maybe for me, for example, I would avoid crowded places. I would feel really bad when I'm in a crowded place, but because I had the misunderstanding that the crowded place is what causes me to feel discomfort, I would naturally avoid it. It makes total sense. But the moment I explored the possibility that how it actually works is what my mind thinks, what I think in any given moment, I also feel, I started to experiment with that. And I started to see that even if I go to a crowded place and I start to feel a little bit of discomfort, I would notice that what I'm thinking, what my mind is occupied by, is just how crowded the place is. Oh, there's a lot of people here. It's really tight. Everyone is looking at me. And as I think that, my feelings start to reflect this thinking. And so when I let that go, I would find myself in a crowded place, but having a totally different experience. So when I calm down and I let go of this thinking and I don't give it much attention, and I would get occupied by something else, for example, a store or just shopping or just walking around, I would calm down. And as I calm down, my feelings reflect the calm state that I am in. So I no longer feel discomfort. And so when I started to see that more and more, I started to experience real freedom. Because what's freedom? When we talk about, when I sit with clients and they say, I would love to feel free, they usually means I need my life to be a certain way so that I can feel free. So I can feel peace. So I can have and experience beautiful feelings. But if you realize that your feelings are not created by your circumstances, you'll realize, then you realize you're totally free because you can step into a situation that tends to make you feel fear, discomfort, or lack of confidence. And if your mind changes in that situation, your experience will change with it. So we can see that everywhere, by the way. One of the examples that comes to mind is around divorce, for example. Not all people experience the same thing when they go through a divorce. So some people would have a very bad experience when they go through a divorce. So, like they would feel ashamed, for example, they would feel sadness. Other people might feel liberated, like they're finally free, like they're finally escaped a trap. Some people would feel anger and upset because they feel like they have invested so much into this relationship. So you see, one thing that we call divorce, millions of different experiences. So the experience does not follow the subject, it follows how you see it, how you think about it. And that's again, not to say, oh, you should not feel sad if you go through a divorce. It just says that you're not stuck feeling the same feeling. That if it just passes and your mind changes and you understand where your feeling comes from, then you'll start to have beautiful feelings very soon. So one example that comes to mind was around one of my biggest discomforts used to be going on a small airplane and sitting in economy and sitting in a tight seat. And I'm a little bit bigger and taller, so it would really dread me. I would go as far as canceling a trip just not to go into this uncomfortable experience. So a few months ago, I was put in this situation, small airplane, sitting in economy. And as I sat in my seat, I noticed the discomfort I was feeling on the inside. And I also noticed what I was thinking. And I was just thinking, oh, I hate these small seats. This is so tight. It's so cramped. I hate this. I'll never fly economy again. And of course, if I'm thinking that, again, your feelings reflect what you think in the moment. And so I kind of remembered, it's okay because I'm not feeling the airplane. I'm not feeling seat 17F. I'm feeling my thinking about it, my personal reality in the moment. And so when I remembered that, when I realized that again, I started to calm down. And soon after, I was totally occupied by something else. And before you know it, the plane landed. And I realized, oh, I no longer feel the discomfort in my body. I feel okay. I feel fine. And that was liberating. I felt the freedom because it means I could do anything and I could go anywhere and I can speak to anyone and I can try anything. And even if I feel bad while doing that, I know it's coming from my thinking in the moment. And that could change when my thinking changes. And that's freedom. That's the ultimate freedom, right? One of my mentors tells a story where he worked with a client who had who would wake up every morning experiencing the same fear And that fear was losing his money. And that person was worth $600 million. So we all say that today, if I make a few $1 million, I'll be set, I'll feel free, I wouldn't worry again about finances. But guess what? Because it doesn't work that way, because if your circumstance changes, it doesn't mean your feeling would stop. That person is the proof. He had $600 million and he still had a very fearful experience about losing his money. So it's all about where your mind is and what you're thinking about. Again, it's not outside in, it's inside out. We create our own personal reality about our life moment to moment, and we experience this personal reality. And so if you don't like the feeling that you're experiencing right now, your personal reality, your thinking can change any moment, and with it, your feelings will change. And that's the real source of pressure and stress. And in other words, what I'm saying is you don't have to feel pressure and stress. I'm not saying it's wrong if you feel it at one point, because our thinking can take us there any minute, but you don't have to think the pressure is being caused by your job, being caused by your spouse, being caused by your finances. Is just a misunderstanding. That's all it is, right? So we're not saying, you know, but I'm broke, I don't have any money. Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, even I was broke at some point, but it doesn't mean I have to feel stressed and pressure about it, because my feelings only follow my thinking. And if my thinking is, if I'm having stressful thoughts, what am I going to do about my money? I hate being broke. I hate this. Then I'm going to feel bad. But if my feeling changes and my mind changes, then yeah, you can address this and try to change it. And it's much easier to change your circumstance when you're feeling good and you're feeling peaceful and you're feeling fine, rather than feeling bad. It's a lot more difficult when you feel bad, when you feel pressure, when you feel stress, to do something about a circumstance you don't like. So that's my attempt to go deeper on this. I could go on and on, but I want to stop here. Thank you for watching and listening, and I hope you find it useful and helpful.